Hello and welcome to the horoscopes for the air signs for the Pisces full moon of 2020. Today we're starting off with Gemini. Um, Gemini, your full moon is the moon is in the 10th house of Pisces. The sun is in the 4th house of Virgo. So this puts a focus on the work, career, and home life. Mercury itself is fairly well dignified in the house of home and family. So that is one area where I think you can look to get some good support right now. And that if you have things sorted out and you have good supports around home life and family, then naturally you can see that kind of come into fruition with maybe some progress and advancement in the area of work and career right now. Um, However, there is 2020 is kind of a hectic year. It's not without its challenges, and you can see some of these challenges coming into focus. For example, with the lineup of Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter in the eighth house of Capricorn. The eighth house of Capricorn, eighth house has to do with your debts, your dependencies, that kind of a thing. Um, with Saturn there, it could also have to do with inheritances, losses, and death, and what comes out of that. And that's being opposed by Venus in the second house. Um, the second house has more to do with your resources and personal belongings, that which you kind of get for yourself, whereas the eighth house is kind of that which you get from other people. And so there's a kind of a conversation happening between Venus and Saturn there, where I think it's really kind of working out things around dependence and independence and what you can do for yourself versus what you need to rely on others for, where you're able to generate your own wealth and where you may need like some assistance or something. Um, Now, to make matters more interesting, Mars is in the 11th house, squaring those two signs. And so the 11th house has to do with help coming through. And so with Mars in the 11th, you're getting some help coming through. And that help is basically, I would say Mars in Aries, you got to understand, is very kind of more pushing in the direction of independence. So it's kind of directly challenging that Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter lineup, kind of challenging the ways where you might be dependent on others or rely on other people's stuff to support you, and really kind of pushing you to help you, find your own, to kind of provide for yourself in the way that you have Venus and Cancer in the second house there. Um, the I mean, you depending on all the different people who have Gemini rising, your actual situation may vary in terms of the dynamics here, and you could compare it to where it's hitting your natal chart. But these are the tensions as I'm reading them, coming up around the full moon. It's also kind of interesting. You've got Uranus there in the 12th house, which is an exact trine to the to the sun. So there's some sort of like, Uranus has to do with kind of rebelling against the circumstances and breaking through and creating a change and stuff like that. But the Uranus here is in the 12th house, and so it could be like, you got to be careful that the desire for change and the desire for freedom and the desire for just like mixing it all up might get you in trouble, especially after this whole Mars retrograde process is done and Mars comes and conjuncts that. But that's not going to be until like January 2021. But like that's you see that Mars there, and it's going to get there eventually. I think that's pretty much what I'm covers the bases here for Gemini. I'm gonna keep going. Let's set it so that we see Libra rising here. Okay. Well, Libra, the sun is in the 12th house. Mercury is there in the 12th house. The moon is in the 6th. So what does this mean? I mean, the 12th house is the house of bad spirit, and the 6th house is the house of bad fortune in traditional astrology. So it's not the easiest kind of lunation. But one of the things which is kind of cool about this is that Mercury is well dignified in the 12th house. So the 12th house is usually has to do with where we screw up, where things go out of control, where problems come up. But having a nicely well dignified Mercury here is like it might be a chance to maybe like get some self-awareness over some of the problem areas. I mean, it's not necessarily the funnest topic, but it's like it could be a helpful thing. With the moon in the 6th house, it could highlight some things to do with health, maybe even mental health stuff with that moon in Pisces, conjunct with Neptune there. And so it could be these things like if you're having a bad time, it's like sometimes even having a bad time can be a good learning experience, or it can be illuminating if we learn to work with it in the right way. Um, if you look at, let's see what else is going on here. You got in the 4th house, you've got the big lineup between of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, and that's being opposed by Venus in the 10th house. So I guess again, there's the 10th and the 4th of like home and work life is a common way to look at it. Um, there's something, the Venus generally represents something good coming through, but it's running up against some sort of like opposition to that Saturn in the 4th. So there could be certain things of like what's your living situation like basically, and what's your working situation like, and this shows maybe more tension coming up around the living situation right now than the working situation. Um and the and if you look at Mars there, Mars is in the 7th house, and it's been going through these squares to the 4th house and the 10th house. So there's something about the relationship where the relationship has that Mars quality to it. So there's some kind of maybe relationship drama or fights in the relationship, or some kind of relationship tension anyways, and that is both affecting perhaps home life and work life or something like that. Or it could be, 7th house also has to do with like if you're working with clients, it could be you could be working with a particularly difficult client right now, and that is sort of like, there could be real big struggles coming up around professional life just because you have a hard case you're working on, depending on what kind of profession you're in. I mean, that could be another thing. It's kind of funny that 7th house is also not just relationship, but also enemies, right? So if you were in a really big, like, open conflict with somebody that you're really going to war with, like, that could be something that could be coming up right now that would be taking a big toll on, maybe just taking care of, like, stuff around the house, or, taking, maybe it's affecting your ability to like show up and be friendly if you're working customer service or something. You're really stressed out or about some sort of drama going on. And yeah, it's not the easiest chart for Libra right now, but again, with that, the fact that you've got at least a well dignified Mercury in the 12th is at least maybe you might be a bit more self aware, or at least learning some some lessons from things going badly. That's the best I can do for Libra on this one right now, I think. Let's move it forward to Aquarius. So the Aquarius is you've got Sun in the 8th house, Moon in the 2nd house. So this is kind of like again, the whole topic of 8th house having to do with where you're dependent on others, where you're inheriting things from those who pass away, where you're it's kind of like a place of loss and dependency, and it was called the house of inactivity, basically, right? And then that's also creating a trine aspect to the big lineup, which is in your 12th house, which is probably not so easy of a configuration for Aquarius rising there. But I think with this kind of thing, I think our society places a lot of importance and value on being kind of like self-sufficient and being able to like be independent and do it all yourself and carry your own weight and contribute and stuff like that. But when I look at a chart like this for Aquarius rising, and you have that pretty heavy duty lineup of planets in the 12th house, it's like, and you've got a nicely well dignified Mercury trining them, it's sort of like it could be like that kind of help that is like, when you're going through a hard time, maybe something comes through that's like a shoulder to lean on, or if there's some sort of support that it's like, this is like, it's okay if you really can't do it yourself right now, I got your back kind of thing. And when you've got the moon, the full moon is in Pisces, pretty much. I mean, I've got it, and you can see it on the screen there with Neptune. I mean, this is a bit past the actual peak point of the full moon, but anyways, it's a lunation with Neptune. If you want to read the outer planets in this reading, Neptune kind of shows a way of where you might be kind of coming up against something where we're not quite as well able, like that, and it could be like, I just get a general message from this chart where it's like it's okay not to be, the winner all the time, or not, it's okay not to be like, being the big success story or something like this, and that you can kind of like take a break. You don't need to like prove yourself right now. You can just kind of rest and take it easy, and like there should be some kind of support from the 8th house that is helping to support you in this, where it's not all just on your own efforts, right? It's like there's some kind of safety net, maybe, right? The what else is going on in the chart? We have the 3rd house. We have Mars about to go retrograde in the 3rd house, and it's the 3rd house has to do with your neighborhood, your siblings, your communication and stuff like that. And there could be some kind of tensions between in those areas where we see the square here from the 3rd, the 12th, and the 6th. The Venus in the 6th could be addressing some things like self-care, exercise, healing. So there could be some like, without, getting too on board this whole like, it's up to you to like, cleanse and detox and get your whole life together kind of thing. It's like there is, Venus is there trying to sort out some basic health concerns right now, and she may be kind of like having some trouble. I mean, it's not really just, maybe not saying having trouble. Venus is like engaging directly with some problematic stuff right now. She's like, it's like she's in there trying to sort stuff out, but she's really getting in the thick of it, of like where some messy stuff is, and you can see that in the configuration with the opposition to Saturn in the 12th house and the square to Mars in the 3rd house, right? Um, so I think there could be something there about that, aside from like just like being about like exercise or grounding or self-care. It also has to do with chores, and there could be just like kind of that like methodical repetitive kind of stuff. Like, I mean, that's what kind of I feel like exercise kind of comes in with the sixth house. It could also be people that you hire to help you, right? So like, if you can afford it, then maybe there's some sort of like helpers that would be like, you could like pay to help sort of like help out or tweak some things or something. But I still, and you can see that sextile between the 6th house Venus and the 8th house Mercury. It's like, I feel like it's more, this illumination is more of like, you know, you're seeing what comes to fruition for what you can provide for yourself with that full moon in the 2nd. But it's a difficult time, and it's like, don't be afraid to like reach out for different supports and stuff like that, rather than a, individualistic do it all yourself kind of attitude. That's kind of what I get from Aquarius rising with this full moon. And that's the air sign. So thanks for watching.